$200 vinyl or $900 vinyl? Which one's right for you? So you want to wrap your car and you're quickly realizing there are a lot of options when it comes to vinyl wrap. You have 3M, Avery, KPMF, Inositech, TinyBot, Tech Wrap, Vivid, Vinyl Frog, just to name a few. And to make things even more confusing is the way you go about buying them is different for different brands. Metro Reselling is kind of the king when it comes to selling vinyl wrap because they have so many different brands to choose from. It's rare that you find a supplier that has such a wide selection of different brands and different vinyl wraps. The only problem is it's an American site and I'm in Canada. Now, if you live in the States, I would just go with them because they streamline that process of buying vinyl and it makes it so much easier for you. But in Canada, it just doesn't really make sense. Let's look at this example of two different rolls of Avery Satin Light Blue. On the left, we have Metro Restyling, and on the right, we have one of my suppliers that I frequently deal with. Now, with Metro Restyling, we've converted that USD price into Canadian dollars. And with this simple comparison, we can see that it costs you a lot more for the same roll. Never mind the potential for duties or extra shipping costs. I would highly recommend that if you're looking for 3M, Avery, Hexus, or Oracal, stick with ND Graphics or Grimco. These are businesses that I've dealt with personally, and this is not sponsored. I've just had good experiences with them, good interactions. If I've ever had an issue, which rarely happens, so that's a good thing. But if there was an issue, they rectify it very quickly. For example, I had a roll that showed up damaged one time. They said, send us a picture, describe the flaw in the film. I did, send them a picture. Within a day, they responded, okay, yep, we got someone to pick it up and we're gonna send you a new roll. Beautiful. Unfortunately, they're not Metro Restyling, so they don't have that wide selection. So if you want KPMF, for example, I would go with TCT Graphics. Again, another business that I deal with. I've had nothing but positive things to say with them. I don't even think I've ever had an issue with them. Obviously, I order less KPMF because it's less popular, but they're another great company, been around, very reputable, and have nothing bad to say about them. To complete your order, you might need to set up a business account with these distributors, and if you don't want to go through that hassle, there are some other sites that you can order directly from the manufacturer, and they'll ship the vinyl straight to your house. Some popular options that people go with are Vivid, Tech Wrap, TinyBot, and Vinyl Frog. There are third-party resellers, and without saying any names, I'm not trying to get in trouble, all I can say is stay far away. Stay as far away as you possibly can. These businesses are not reputable, in my opinion. I've had nothing but problems with them. I've lost a lot of money dealing with them. They don't stand behind their product. Material shows up damaged. They say, well, contact the shipper. That's not our fault. You get the wrong order. Same thing. Also, that's not their fault. So it's just a headache, and they end up never refunding you, never doing anything to help you out. So instead of risking it, I understand vinyl is expensive. We're gonna talk about that later, but a full roll of vinyl can run you $1,000. That's a lot of money to risk. I don't have that money to risk. I don't wanna risk it. So I would deal with these reputable companies that I've mentioned, and you should be safe. Okay, quick vinyl lesson. So there's two types of vinyl, and I've talked about this before, but your two main types are cast vinyl and calendared vinyl. So what's the difference? Cast vinyl is typically thinner, it's easier to stretch, really conformable, and lasts about 5 to 7 years, something around there. 7 years is kind of pushing it, but let's say 5 years. Calendared vinyl, on the other hand, it's a little thicker, less conformable. Adhesive tends to be a little bit stickier, and that vinyl, the longevity is around 1 to 2 years before you start seeing some fading. Who makes cast vinyl and who makes calendared vinyl? Well, cast vinyl, the main players in that space are typically Avery Dennison, 3M, KPMF, and Oracal. Hexus also has some cast vinyl, but those are the big names in that space. Who makes calendar vinyl? Again, some popular names in that space. That would be Vivid, Tech Wrap, TinyBot, and Vinyl Frog. Those are some big players in the calendared vinyl wrap space. Knowing that, which brand should you choose? Which one is right for you, for your project, or whatever you're trying to wrap? This process is actually very similar to buying a car. It really depends what your goals are and what you value. If you're someone who values reliability and fuel efficiency when you're car shopping, then you probably want a Toyota, a Prius or a Corolla or something like that. On the other hand, if you're someone who prefers something flashy, a more engaging driving experience, you kind of like showing a nice car, probably want to go towards German luxury brands, right? Those are two completely different cars for completely different buyers. Let's bring this back to vinyl wrap now. So if you're someone, it's your first time doing this, you're going to be the person wrapping your car. You don't like changing the color that often, and you don't really want to struggle with the vinyl as much. 100% pick a cast film, you'll be very happy. On the other hand, if you're someone who prefers bright, vibrant colors, you might not be the one installing this, so it doesn't really matter how difficult it is to install. And you get bored kind of quickly, you like changing things up, changing the color up every 1 to 2 years, you should pick a calendared film. They have a wide selection, all those brands that I mentioned before. have a wide selection of really bright, crazy colors that I think would suit that type of buyer if that's what you're looking for in your vinyl wrap. Personally, if I had to pick, I would always pick a cast film just because the ease of install is so much better than calendared film. And it makes the process more enjoyable for me. But I do have to concede that the calendared films have way better colors. They're more vibrant, they have cool effects like color shifting, super glitter, things like that you don't really find in cast films. I am always tempted to use calendared films, but at the end of the day, I always end up going with cast. Now that we know the difference between cast and calendared film, let's look at some numbers and see how that affects pricing. We're gonna look at gloss red vinyl because every company makes it. And as of right now, here's what a full roll costs from Avery, 3M, and KPMF. Next, we're gonna check some prices for calendared vinyl brands. Here we have Vivid, Vinyl Frog, TinyBot, and Tech Wrap. You can also see the price of the super cheap vinyl that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. But guys, don't wrap your car with this stuff. This vinyl is not intended for full car wraps. It's more like stickers and decals. Initially, you might be wondering, if cast vinyl is the premium, high quality stuff, how come the price is very close to the calendared vinyl, which is supposedly lower quality? With the exception of Vivid, because we can see that it's much cheaper than the other calendared brands, how come the prices are so close? And when you look into it, it's actually worse than you think because look how much vinyl you're getting when you get the calendar brands as opposed to the cast brands. For Avery, 3M, and KPMF, you are getting 75 feet of material in one roll. For Vinyl Frog, TinyBot, and Tech Wrap, you are getting 59 feet, 58 feet, and 59 feet respectively. So you're paying more for an inferior vinyl and you're getting less of it. I don't get that. Why would someone buy calendared vinyl? I think you buy it for the colors and the finishes. Now, are the colors and finishes so much better than cast vinyl that it makes up for its difficulty to install and the fact that its longevity is a third of what cast vinyl is? For me, no, absolutely not. Those are two huge negatives against it. But you might disagree. Let me know in the comments. I promise I'm not trying to hate on calendared vinyl. I'm really not. I think there is a place for it in the market, but I think that price point has to be at Vivid's price point, 50, 60, 70% of the cast vinyl of its competition. It should be around there. And if it did cost that much, then I would get it. I'd be on board with it. But when it costs the same or more than cast vinyl, to me, that makes no sense. The other big negative for me against calendared vinyl is the size of the roll. The fact that it comes in that 60, 59, 58 foot length as opposed to the 75 foot length, it can be a problem. Because if you have a large vehicle, like a big SUV or a big pickup truck, 60 feet is just not enough to do the whole vehicle. You're gonna need to order more than one roll. So if you're getting into vinyl wrapping, you don't know where to buy the vinyl or which vinyl to buy, I would go back to my recommendations at the beginning. If you're in the States, just buy from Metro Restyling. And if you're in Canada, you can check out those distributors that I mentioned, see if you need a business account or not to order from them. But before you order, please check two things. Which type of material are you ordering? Is it cast or is it calendared? And also check how much vinyl you're actually paying for. Are you getting 59 feet or are you getting 75 feet in one roll? That's something you need to know. Also, don't be afraid to order the either 1 foot or 1 yard samples. It can really help you see if the vinyl is easy enough for you to work with, or you might start playing around with it and go, yeah, I don't really like this, or the color doesn't really match what's on the website. It's just useful to see what you're gonna be wrapping your whole car with. That's it, guys. If this video helped, please drop a like below, and thanks for watching.